Hey there everyone, this is Jeremy, the Music Andy, and we're here today to talk about Deleter by Holy Fuck. This is a release from 2020 and was a requested album to review. Holy is a four-piece indietronica, neo-psychedelic, krautrock band from Toronto, Canada. Deleter is the fifth album from the band, and it is the first one I will be hearing from them, so let's just dive right into this. Our first track is Lux, and it has Alexis Taylor from Hot Chip featured on this for the vocals. The immediate thing that I notice on this track is the bass that's on it. It is very eerie, it's very daunting. It almost feels like it's hunting me as I'm listening to it. The synth keys on this add a nice contrast to the dark backdrop that is going on right now. All while this is happening, the vocals are fading in and out with different effects being applied to them. This song is very repetitive in nature, hence it's a indietronica krautrock song, but the band still keeps fresh ideas coming in, even with the same melodies and rhythms playing. This track is very dynamic, it is very emotionally changing, whether it be through the intensity that's being played on the instruments or just the way that the melodies and rhythms kind of change throughout it. The tones on this aren't very adventurous, but that's not a bad thing. These are still very pleasant tones that work together very well. It's an extremely busy song that progresses very nicely, and it has a very nice payoff at the end of it as well. This is a very nice lead track. It works together very well. It doesn't go for many risks, but at the same time, it is still a very nice listen. This is a very nice beginning track to this album. It's not very adventurous, but that's fine. It's still a very pleasant listen, and it still has a very unique listen as well. Leaders is the second track on this, and it has Angus Andrews on it, which is the lead singer for Liars. I'm a big fan of Angus. I love the early stuff of Liars. I like the middle stuff. I like the later stuff of Liars. I'm just a big fan of the band overall, so I'm very excited to see how the vocals are going to be used here and if the style change is going to happen at all on this track. Starting off this song, it has a very heavy LCD sound system feel to me. The bass on this is very prominent. It goes from a synth bass to a bass guitar, all having very good fills and rhythm sections. And Angus Andrews almost sounds like James Murphy, but if you were to take James Murphy and put a potato sack over his head and kind of tie it shut on him so it's a little muffled. The rhythm section on this is very expanding. The chorus that's on this has that Liars kind of poppy, dancey touch to it. And it's easy for me to say that this is my favorite track on the album. Yes, I'm a bit biased because Angus Andrews is on this, but I feel like if anybody was singing on this and you kept the song intact, I would still be a very big fan of this song. Endless is the third track on this, and it has no guest vocals. This is a heavy neo-psychedelia song. It has reverbed vocals, it has euphoric synths, it's got sparkling keys. This song reminds me a lot of Tame Impala or a band named Dummy. There's nothing wrong with that. If you like this type of music, this will definitely scratch that itch for you. The best part of this entire song is definitely the beginning section for me. It's very spacious, it's progressing in a very gentle, mature manner. There are also these moments of the synthesizer that comes in and it sounds like nails on a chalkboard. It adds a very unique tone and a very contrasting tone to this song, and it always perks my ears up when I listen to it. Track 4, Free Gloss, is featuring Nicholas Albrook from Pond, also a solo artist, and this is a very danceable, poppy song. This track might be my least favorite on the entire thing. It's a little bit too radio-friendly for me, which is a very smug thing to say, I understand. The melodies and rhythms of this just feel a little bit too safe for me. They feel like it's going to be a radio song, like I said. I hear 4 different bands rolled up into one, and every single section that this song changes, I could point to it and say it sounds like this song. The vocals also on this are fine. They don't really stick out too much to me. It didn't really warrant the guest feature too much for me. But overall, it's still not a bad song. It just happens to be my least favorite, unfortunately. Track 5, Moment, starts off with this very muffled bass rhythm that is stabbed by these piercing, diving synth notes. This Western-style guitar comes shuffling in, and it always catches my attention every single time I hear it. I love this little section. This section is super catchy. It has a lot of strange tones going on, a lot of rhythm changes going on. It's just very active and I like it a lot. There's this frenzied feeling of climbing and falling keys going up and down a scale placed in between this section. When the vocals get introduced, everything is kind of cut off and needs to find a footing back in the song again. So far on this album, I can see that Holy is a very patient band that is very mature in letting songs progress naturally, and they're very good at carrying momentum through these instruments. Every single moment that I hear from this bass guitar, honestly, is some of my favorite bass guitar moments, period. The moments that I have heard from this bass guitar always become my favorite moments of the album. They stand out a lot, they're very groovy, they're very catchy. The tone on this bass is fantastic, and the fills and rhythms that it does is very memorable and has a lasting impact after the album for me. This is a well-crafted song all the way through. From beginning to end, the attention to detail is all there. They do a good job of introducing, removing instruments, but then reintroducing instruments and building upon it. Everything that plays here rhythmically and melodically has a chance to dance and mingle with each other at the end of this track, and it has a very nice contrasting point and dynamic point to it. This whole track overall is a super satisfying listen and is one of my favorites on this entire album as well. Near Mint is the 6th track on this album, and it has the embodiment of being cool and laid back. Reminds me a lot of Deer Hunter in their earlier stages of their career. It's very reserved, but it has the switch that can go up in intensity and contrast in tones. The post-punk switch that can be found on this with the bass once it starts bouncing up and down like a trampoline always catches my ear, and I love grooving to it. The middle section on this is a fine break, especially when the lead section has these door stopper moments. I don't know why, but I just love hearing it. This door stopper noise kind of moves into a soft boil until we're hooked right back into the chorus of the song. It's a very easy transition, and it's a super fantastic song to listen to. No Era track 7 has me going back to feeling like I was 12 listening to the Black Keys and Spoon. The vocals on this are absolutely distorted beyond belief, and it adds a whole new feel to the meaning garage rock. Like I said earlier, the bands that I mentioned were from the early 2000s, from the late 2000s, and it sounds like Holy is kind of building upon the garage rock sound and really just skewing it and expanding it completely, adding a whole new sound to it in 2020. There's a performance from the synthesizer around the 1 minute 30 second mark, and it's just absolute ear candy to me. It's noisy, it's harsh, it's raw, and it fits perfectly in this already stripped down raw song. Everything is working just right for me on this track, again adding to one of my favorites on this album. San Sebastian is the 8th track on this, and it has a lot more unpleasant approach from the rest of the album. You really can't find a comforting tone in this track, and that's great, honestly. The drums on this are simple, again creating that bass level floor for all these instruments to scatter around. And trust me, these instruments are scattering around like when you're a kid and you flip over a rock and all the bugs start flipping out. The bass is also helping with this main floor, while the horns and the synths are kind of fighting for this center stage. This is just another great song on this album. Ruby is the final track on this, and it is a very slow progressing song that almost evolves into this tribe-like chant at the end. There's a little bit of Minecraft noises here and there, and you pick them out, and that's the end of the album. With this being my first ever listen from the band, I'm glad that I dove in and listened to it, and I'm glad that I was suggested to listen to it. I like this a lot, and I'm excited to dive into the rest of their discography, especially earlier in their careers, where I can see a lot of this really being the main kind of source of music in the time period, if that makes any sense. With that all being said, I'm going to give this 7.9 sauerkrauts out of 10. What did you think of this album? What albums would you like me to review in the future? Please leave a comment below and let me know. Subscribe if you like the content, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.